Well, not really. Well, I did play Extreme Paintbrawl. The footage I had of it got corrupted, and it's just that type of game that I can't be asked to play again to get gameplay for. So instead, I'm just going to talk about it with random games of poker playing in the background. Extreme Paintbrawl had a development cycle of 2 weeks, which I applaud because I can put off making more videos for YouTube, let alone making a game in that time. That being said, this game is still a kick in the testes in terms of quality, but at the very least, the short development time is somewhat of an excuse for the quality. The game seemingly doesn't want to be played in the first place, as to run it you need to execute it in DOS, then run it in a Windows 98 virtual machine. This is because the game will simply not run on Windows Millennium Edition or above due to it being DOS based. I'm getting terrible catfight flashbacks with this game, which, if you didn't know, is another deplorable, poorly coded PC game that can barely run on modern computers. You know what? For you to truly understand how I feel about this game, I'm really going to need to show you what I see. So, I'll just include some clips of the game uploaded on YouTube, with credits included of course. Let's get back into it. The practice mode in the game is as useless as DJ Khaled's personal trainer, as it only spawns you on the map. What am I meant to do, get to know these maps that you spent all of 2 weeks making? No thanks, next. Single game is as its name implies, you play one game of Extreme Paintbrawl, where the objective is to capture the enemy team's flag, or you know, play paintball and shoot the opposing players. The hit detection in the game hits about as well as me in a porno. No wait, it hits about as well as that failed attempt at a joke I made, which in terms that aren't retardedly said by me, very poorly. Every shot fired from the paintball gun sounds like a fart, with multiple guns firing sounding like me after a little Mexican food. You soon realise that the intelligence of every player is pathetically bad, with most running into walls in a continuous loop and run in random directions, giving you an easy path to capture the flag. Yes, when I said the intelligence of every player is bad, I even meant the person playing this game, because what sort of dumbass would play this game without heeding the warnings of everyone who's played it before them? Oh, I of course am exempt from this because this game was listed on Wikipedia's worst games list and I must obliterate all the games on this list, meaning I am not a drooling idiot. If you patch the game, the AI improves and can then focus on trying to shoot you instead of the wall they were caught in, which isn't needed because they essentially have perfect aim. The guns have range as short as my penis. Well, actually my cock isn't that large, and the shots fired are very inaccurate. I'm not too sure if they tried to replicate how real paintball guns would be with drop off and gravity affecting the pellets, but at the end of the day I'd rather have a fun game than a realistic one, which this game is neither. Talking about realism, the HUD on screen, from what I can tell, is your stamina, and the more you run about the slower you get. So what other realistic elements are going to be added in to ruin my enjoyment then? If I fall off a ledge I might twist my ankle and get impeded further? Get the fuck out of here. The final game mode is season mode, where you hire recruits to compete in a championship, and why would I want to be reliant on the most brain-dead AI to help me win? One of this game's big claims to fame is that it's the first non-violent shooter because, as anyone does, I disregard the quality of any shooter if they contain any bloodshed in them. I get that this meant to be aimed at kids, but like the guns in this game, they completely miss the target. This game's target audience may as well have been the Secret Servant agents as a torture device, because 5 minutes of this game will surely have anyone spilling the beans on anything. The maps don't even simulate paintball fields, with these matches happening on space stations and in deserts, which look suspiciously like unused assets meant for other games. The saddest thing about this game is that it received 3 sequels, and I'm sure there's many entertainment mediums that you can think of that deserve a sequel, let alone 3. The third game is titled Ultimate Paintbrawl 3, so it looks like the developers found a cooler buzzword than Extreme to use. Fun fact, Head Games, the publisher of this game, is a subsidiary of Activision, and as far as I can tell they had an involvement in all 4 games. Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm glad Activision got better at knowing what first-person shooters to publish. The music featured isn't bad at all. In fact, it's great, with a hopeful musician handling the soundtrack. Although I will admit, the soundtrack does not fit the game at all, but really, what the fuck do you have as a soundtrack for a paintball game? I feel that the music, as well as the fact that this game is on PC, which avoided so many control issues, saved it from being the worst of the worst. I have a little theory about the music in this game that I'm going to tell regardless of whether you want to hear it or not. The musician may have thought that he had found his way into stardom, with the game developers probably convincing him that it would be a major game release. I can imagine him running from the phone call he had just made from the developers to tell his mum that he can finally move on with his life and out of her house. A few weeks later, he finds out what a pitiful game Extreme Paintbrawl is, and disappointed, he got used. When going to his job, his boss stuffs him in the lockers because of his contribution to this game, and as of today, he has made no notable contributions to soundtracks of any medium. Extreme Paintbrawl was a murder-suicide for the careers of the developers and the poor musician dragged into it. May their souls rest in crappy game heaven, where the rest of the games eviscerated on this channel reside. Now, to make up for the lack of footage for Extreme Paintbrawl, I'm going to look at South Park. The video game, not the whole series. You aren't getting that much compensation for an absence of gameplay. Although, you probably would have known this if you looked at the thumbnail or known I exclusively look at video games. Second fun fact of the episode, the video game licensing rights to the show were bought dirt cheap just before the first season of South Park had finished. Who would have had the grace to buy these rights so easily? Well, my favourite publisher, Acclaim, who, if you forgot, helped make the current worst game so far, The Crow's City of Angels, which you should totally check out my video for. They have no excuse for making a terrible game when they hadn't wasted all their money on licensing like The Crow. Oh sorry, this is Acclaim. They wanted to rush a game out so it could be purchasable by Christmas 1998. By the time this game came out, the second season had just ended, so they didn't really have much source material to work from. When making a video game based from a cartoon, it's kind of hard to pin down exactly what genre will pair well with the show. Unfortunately, what we got was a first-person shooter. Not that I have anything against that genre, it's just that this game turned out to be an extremely mediocre first-person shooter. Before getting into the review proper, I'd just like you to know that if there is any switch in the quality of gameplay, I played both the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 version of the game. From now on, if there are multiple versions of a game, I will play a few versions and see the contrasting features in them. The difference between the South Park games is that the Nintendo version is far superior to the PlayStation in graphics, sound quality, and controls, and it also features a bigger variety of cheats. The story is as weak as my colon after Mexican food, as it sees a comet filled with evil flying through the town of South Park, and this creates the sole reason for any enemies to be in the game. Before the level starts, you need to select your character, and hovering over one of the boys triggers a line of dialogue. Doing so locks you out of being able to select another character until the line is finished, giving me flashbacks to selection in Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. You know what? I'll stop saying that features in games remind me of previous ones, because it's different shit from the same septic tank when it comes to these games. The basic weapon is snowballs, which is the most reliable in the game as you have an infinite supply of them, regardless if you are in a snowy area or not. The secondary fire is yellow snowballs, and I think Acclaim thought South Park was meant to gross out people and not to contain any humour, because how is the act of urinating on a snowball meant to garner a laugh? The rest of the weapons are what you'd expect children to use, but that doesn't detract from how stupid some of the weapons seem in concept, furthering the case that this shouldn't have been a first-person shooter. The enemies are all the same for a few levels at a time, ranging from things that appeared on the show such as turkeys and aliens, to things that didn't, such as robots and evil toys. Were toys included because they would be the type of thing kids would fight, or is it because the idea pool ran dry? I can tell when the boss enemies of the level are simply named Tank in-game. These pieces of shit constantly spawn new enemies, and when whittled down to low health will make their way to the starting point of the level. You then have to trudge back through the level, and the multitude of tanks per level will manage to make you see the level more times than you'd want. If they do manage to reach the starting point, after you completed the level, you will be forced into a minigame where you finish off the tanks before they destroy South Park. After nearly each level, you need to recollect the rest of the boys because, yes, you literally just walk straight into them to re-add them to your inventory. They must have the minds of goldfish, as they wander off moments after they were all together in the cutscene prior. Talking about minds, because I need to segue into the AI of the game, the enemies offer no strategy, running mindlessly at you until either you or they are dead. It's at this point I must let loose and say this is the most repetitive game I have ever played. Due to the snowball being in such abundance, you'll be constantly using it for long stretches as ammo is scarce at the start of the game. Combined with the brain dead nature of the enemies, all you do is stand in one place mashing the fire button. The structure of each section is the same. Chef tells the boys to go here to kill some enemies. Chef tells the boys to go there to kill some enemies. Then it turns out the colossal version of the enemy they've been facing the whole time is a boss, and next to it is something that can easily destroy every enemy of that kind. The overabundance of tanks in each level means I'm constantly running back through bland terrain that seems the same as the last few levels I just played. I've seen more white in this game than an owner at a cocaine plantation. Hell, if I close my eyes, I still see white. Oh, maybe that's because I'm Caucasian, but that's beside the point. Play the first level and you've experienced the game, for better or worse. I really feel like the game reflects on how people would have felt about the series at the time. Terrible to look at, with gross moments and swearing to make up for a lack of humour or substance. In conclusion, Extreme Paintbrawl can thank its lucky stars that it had some quality elements stuffed in with the garbage bin they call this game. It may be the most broken of the games I've played so far, but its major saving grace is that it wasn't nearly as frustrating to play as some other games. Which, I feel is something I need to mention. My ranking of these games are based on the enjoyment I gathered, or lack thereof, from my experience playing them. Whilst I stand by it being the most broken, I'd rather play it any day over, say, a Bubsy 3D. Hopefully that can help people better understand why I'd put South Park a little low on this list. South Park is the most functional and well put together product so far, but to play it I found less enjoyable than technically worse put together games. I hope episodes like this never happen again, where I feel like I spent too much time talking about other things not related to eviscerating games, but hey, it is what it is. Until next time, I'm a very lazy YouTuber, signing out.